Okay, restart. We have sound now. Wow.
Hey everybody. Thanks for the messages I've got. I have two messages on my phone that we didn't have sound, and I noticed with the sound bar at the bottom of the screen that we might have not had sound about 2 minutes ago, Daryl. So I'm kind of happy that people sent us messages. So sorry we've wasted about 7 minutes of your time on mute there. To restart what we said, I'll summarize it. We got snow in Canada. Daryl finally got snow, and I was happy to hear it. And then we started talking about Bulls USA Nationals. So Bulls USA had their nationals over the last week there. So sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody. To jump into the results quick, first place in the men's singles was Charlie Herbert from the Southwest Stars. So he plays, Bulls USA has two divisions, so he plays for Southwest Stars. He was first place. Second place was Aaron Zangel from the Central Division. So friend of the show, Aaron Zangel, got second place. So congrats to both of those guys. It was nice to see those results coming in. And then the women's singles, we had Ann Nunez winning, and second place going to Mary Thompson. So congratulations to both of those ladies as well. For the men's pairs, we had David Shaw and Ian Ho from the South Central Division. Second place was Frankie Napoli and Scotty Marzoni from Pacific Intermountain Division. So congratulations to them. When we talked about it previously, I had highlighted the men's pairs division being a pretty good division for the Nationals this year. I played against a lot of the guys, the U.S. Open and the North American Challenge in the past, so I was actually excited to see the results come in there. So men's pairs was a very good field, so congrats to both of those teams. And the women's pairs was Sandy Wall and Martha Nielsen from the Southeast Division. They ended up winning, and second place was Janice Bell and Ginger Harris from Pacific Intermountain Division. So congratulations to all those teams. Nice to see Bulls USA able to get their nationals off, because it was the first time in multiple years, just like Canada was. So congrats to everybody.
Oh shit, Mike. Technical difficulties. Yep. Found the setting that was missing. It was something that just reset. Didn't touch it, but shit happens. I just wanted to say I was really happy to see all the U.S. Players again playing. There's names that I know. There's names that Mike know from playing them North America. You saw the usuals: Charlie, Aaron, and Mary. Making the top and doing really well, which is usual. I was really interested to see who was coming from the Northeast and Northwest, the northern kind of states, because usually it is often a struggle when they have to play in the South on Arizona greens, which are very different from northern US, because US is so big. And I wish we would see more competition from the US. I know the organization of the US is a little difficult because it's so big and there's such variation in states and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see them back at it, and hopefully this just helps them continue to spur on the growth of the sport in the United States, because if it picked up, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I always like to pay attention to what's happening in the United States. Like, I think they recently had a new club start in Massachusetts when I was reading their website. So looks like they've got some continual growth. Specifically, I know that Northeast part of the country, they've kind of targeted to try and grow the game a bit out there, because there's obviously lots of cities and lots of people out there that have the opportunity or could have the opportunity to bowl, and I know they're trying to really promote the game out in that way. So hopefully the Nationals and all their programming that they have, maybe the US Open in the future, comes back and they continue to grow the game in America. So I guess we can move on to our next topic, would be BPL. So the BPL just concluded. I guess that would have been 3 days ago. So again, I'll let you take this one, Daryl.
So my notes here. BPL 16, another run of the BPL, which was awesome. It gives us more bowls to watch, something super fun, exciting, quick. I say it all the time, and I'll say it again. If you are looking for some really cool bowls to watch, if you're looking for something exciting and unique and just full of energy, the BPL is where it's at. Take a look at it, and you can check out previous versions of it, previous runnings of it. It's just a really, really fun time. And it would be probably pretty cool to be there live, as you can see from this picture. The winners are the Melbourne Pulse, and I believe this is the third time that they won, which is a record for the BPL. In that picture, you've got Gary Kelly on the far left, Ellen Ryan next to him, Lindsay Clark, who was the BPL host and on-green personality, and then you've got Barry Lester, and then
Jeremy Henry.
Why did I blank on that? The Irish connection, right? Gary Kelly and Jeremy Henry. And they defeated the Adelaide Pioneers, which was Scotty Thulborn, Caitlin Inch, and Wayne Rittiger, as far as that team went. And just flip over here. They had a cool little image that I stole from the Bulls Australia website, which is the BPL 16 All-Stars. You got Corey Wedlock, who won the BPL 16 MVP. But you also had Rebecca Van Ash and Gary Kelly as the other All-Stars. To be perfectly honest, I didn't catch every single game, but I caught a bunch of them. And there's so many awesome shots, great players. I mean, Alex Marshall was on point when he was there playing. It was really cool to see. Joe Edwards, the retired Joe Edwards from New Zealand, was playing, and she was phenomenal as a lead. So you could throw a whole bunch of names on here. So I'm sure it's really hard to pick who actually gets these MVP awards. But BPL 16, really cool. Check it out if you haven't already. It's something that we're direly in need of here in Canada. Something high energy and also indoors.
Yeah, the indoor wouldn't hurt to have something like that. Yeah, I watched a fair bit of the event myself too. As you're saying, Alex Marshall and Joe on that Pirates team, I believe they were essentially second place after the round robin had concluded. So they had a respectable showing, nearly got themselves there. One point I was looking at the standings. I think there was 5 or 6 teams that were tied for the last 2 playoff spots. So it was an interesting results-wise week because there was a lot of teams still in contention, even with like 2 rounds left. So it's not typical of that format where you've seen in the past, I think, teams running away with it and then 2 or 3 teams that pretty much don't win any games. This year it was a very evenly matched field. So it actually was very nice to watch the results come along. And obviously you get the sort of quick hitting highlight packages that they put out every night. So it's good to check those out and see the really nice shots that are made by each of the players. So I enjoyed it. Okay, so that's all we had for BPL. We got other results to pass your way too. So the other sort of major event that's occurred over the last few weeks was the World Bowls Tour came back. It was the Scottish Open. We did have some Canadian content in there, and I guess some results, some fairly substantial results from our Canadian content. So Gary Pickering was the PBA representative for Canada in that event, and Gary ended up winning his first match against Alex Marshall. So congrats to Gary. That's a pretty respectable showing. I think you have the score with you. What was the score in that game?
It was a crazy game to watch, and I know Mike and I were kind of messaging a bit back and forth. It was 0-12 for Alex Marshall, so a blank on that one. Then Gary was actually down. I think it was 5-2 or 5-3, or I think it was 5-2, and was like down 2 or 3 in the head, and actually made a pick to pick up 3, push the jack to the back, and from there didn't look back. It was like a TSN turning point kind of thing where He went on to win that one 8-7 in a close set, and then actually won the tiebreak 2-0 against Alex. He was actually locking. It was interesting because I'll admit it. I messaged Mike and I said Gary's getting smashed. After that 0-12, it was a little tough to watch, and you're kind of like, oh, when's Gary gonna find his rhythm? But man, he was locking them on late stages and into that tiebreaker. He had one close every single time, and that's super important. And yeah, so my hats off to him on that. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, we were watching it together, and I still remember our back and forth where Gary did manage to pull it out, and he played pretty impressive in that second set and into the tiebreaker. So well done, Gary. He did bow out in the second round, so he ended up losing to Simon Skelton in the next round. Simon ended up making it all the way to the final. So to lose it to the guy who's a finalist, can't really fault losing that round. Nope. I think you have the score. How'd that second round game go for Gary?
So yeah, he was defeated by Simon Skelton 7-4, 10-3. That wasn't on TV. That was just off to the side rink while the TV game was going on. And then in the end, the very, very final game was Stuart Anderson from Scotland defeating Simon Skelton from England to win the Scottish Open, and that went 10-4, 10-2.
Yeah, I watched, I think, 3 of Stuart's games, and he was absolutely on fire. Literally almost seemed like a different level than the other players that he was playing against. He played, who was it from Scotland in the semifinal? Burnett. Yeah, he was playing Burnett in the semifinal there, and he just was torching him. Like, it was actually like crazy how on point his draw weight and just the ability to make sort of those slightly overdraw shots by him. So he really did play great. And then in the final with those scores, as you're saying, he really did deserve the final as well. So I was very happy to see that he was able to pull that off.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I mean, if you had any question on why he was picked to that Scottish national team and the Commonwealth Games team, there's your proof. He's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he earned that one. I think he's been one of the better players on the WBT for a few years now. So I wouldn't be surprised if come next month there, or I guess is it January? I don't remember when they do Potters. I wouldn't be surprised if we see his name playing in the last couple of days as well. Because if he's playing that well just last week, I bet you he's probably gonna be able to continue something pretty similar into Potters as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so that's our WBT info that we had. A few other things we were going to cover on the show today. So there is other bowling coming up pretty immediately here. So the World Champion of Champions is actually taking place in New Zealand starting next week. So we do have some Canadian content in the Champion of Champions. That's Michael Leong from BC. So Michael's going down. If you in the description of the video, I believe you had a link there, Daryl. Yep. So you can check out the link there. He's playing in the B pool for the men. So if you want to check out his draw, who he's playing, everything like that, the information is there. I believe they start playing next Friday, New Zealand time. So it would be Thursday, our time, or whatever it would be. But you'd have to kind of familiarize yourself with the time difference. But pretty much late next week is when that tournament gets underway. And good luck to Michael. We looked over his pool when me and you were talking yesterday, and hopefully he has a good showing there. He's got quite a few games, so hopefully he can find the pace of the green and really put in a good showing.
Yeah, it's exciting. He's been waiting to play this for quite some time, so it's good to see that he actually gets to fulfill that promise of playing in the Champion of Champions. In other North American news, the 2 names that we gave you for the U.S. Nationals will be playing there as well. So Charlie Herbert and Nunes will be playing in the men's and women's as well. Women only has 1 division, and I believe Charlie's in Michael's pool, the Pool B. So yes, both North American players in that pool. So keep an eye on that. The website looks pretty good. It looks like they're going to be doing some live streaming there. So if you really want to see what's going on, check the link in the description and follow along, because we've got some North American people playing.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how they do. Again, it's when we talked about the world indoors from the springtime there. This event, when we looked at the pools, there's quite a few countries that you don't traditionally see bowling as much, or that they're newer to bowls. So there's a lot of countries in both of the men's pool that I've seen very limited results or bowlers come from those countries before. So I'm very excited to see that it's growing. It looks like that there's more teams getting involved or more countries sending people to these events, because there's really no other way to develop the game or sort of get people exposed to playing at that international level than playing in events like this. So it was nice to see that there's a lot of newer countries playing in this event as well.
Yeah, I'm excited whenever we see new people, new faces, new countries taking part. I mean, we've got some countries that you don't see in much of other events, like Turkey we see play, but not a lot of people realize that there is some Turkish representative in bowls. And Israel, you see them pop up every once in a while, but they're in there as well. So really cool. The more the merrier. If we can build this game up, it's good for everybody. Really, it's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, good luck to Michael, and we'll hopefully have some results to pass along our next show. So for moving on from that, we do have, I guess, other info we wanted to touch on. So in the next week or so, you would get to look forward to, with all the Canadian results and national team selections, we are going to have another Check Your Bias show coming out. So Alex and me got back together, and his Power 20, hotly debated Power 20 list that he threw together last time, it obviously needed some updating because there's new results and national team selections to factor into those lists. So sometime next week we'll have that video coming out, and you'll be able to see the updates that have occurred sort of with the national team selections and the results from the indoor there.
Yeah, it's always fun. I get to listen to you guys record that, so it's always a fun time. Check it out, see what you think. We want that conversation. I know Al specifically wants you to fire back at him, say, why wasn't this person picked, or why wasn't this person higher, or why did you pick that person? We want that conversation. We want that the spicy picks to be debated in the community, because it just makes for that fun little something that we can do over the winter. We can look forward to every few events that we'll get another refreshing of these rankings. So have some fun with it. Really, that's the whole point of it. Have some fun with it. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, Al and me enjoy debating and sort of talking about bowls and sort of the results that happen. So that list or that show that you're gonna routinely see out of us is going to continue, and it's going to be something we're going to have fun doing, just to update the different players and where they go up and down, because realistically it's a subjective list where we're doing a power ranking system. So it's what have you done for us lately type of ranking. So we're excited to keep that list up to date and keep moving it around depending on the results as Canada has results in the future.
Well, here's your first thing. Derek Dillon, more leads need to be in the top 20.
Good take. I think debatably, when he sees the updated list, there's probably a couple more leads that have been put into that list, and I can definitely agree with you. I know Al is the one making those decisions. I would agree, considering I play lead in pairs. Derek, I would agree with you that leads do definitely need to be factored in a little more than they currently are, but making a list of 20 people is obviously pretty difficult across Canada. So I'll definitely try and put that in Al's ear for the future, Derek, that more leads need to be featured in the list.
And we all know skips get the glory. We all know skips do all the hard work. Let's be honest, right?
No, skips are obviously the ones that do all the hard work. So we had some other stuff to cover today. Is that right, Daryl?
Yeah. Just recently, Bulls Canada announced that they refreshed the board of directors for BCB. I have some of the names here. So continuing on that board, the chair, Catherine McGregor, treasurer, Dennis Verge, and secretary Ann Mathewson. They're continuing, keep that continuity going. Director Chris Stadnick and Laura Seed are also staying on there. Probably some of the competitive names that you might know there. And new to the board, Derek Mackay, who is heavily involved. He's commented on the show and been hotly debated in the top 20 as well. Philip Francis and Michel Leroux from Quebec. So really good to see some Quebec flavor on the board again. So good luck to the board. I know it's not easy being on there, having to manage and deal with everything that's going on in the world. So good for them.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see some new faces on there. Specifically, it's good to see Michel's back in the fold. Been a few years since we've sort of seen his name floating around, but obviously with the mixed pairs there, he's doing some competitive bowling again. And then if he's getting on the board, that's probably a nice step. It's actually kind of interesting to read the profiles that they put on the website for what people's backgrounds are, sort of the work they do. I didn't realize Michel was involved with city planning. So that sort of work that you do with board of directors for cities or municipalities, I'm sure it's going to be helpful for him to be able to understand how a board of directors for a sport governing body would work. So I'm sure he'll fit right in with that board and be able to maybe bring some new ideas to it.
So I just want to pivot a little bit from here before we get into some other stuff that we talked about. I want to throw it out to anybody watching this video, either now or later on. We are trying to plan some after dark specials to do during the winter and over our time off. Try to talk about things that are going on, hot topics, stuff that we can debate and talk about to move Bulls ahead into the future. So if there are topics that you really want us to discuss, if there's people who you want us to bring onto the show to have some of these discussions, if there's anything that you can suggest, please comment, send us a DM, send us an email, whatever. Contact Mike and I directly. We just want to know, because we want to put out content that you want. We want to do these after darks to have some fun, and while we're not bowling here, debate some of these hot topics and just have a little discourse and keep people focused on bowls. So yeah, send us stuff, tell us what you want, and we're going to try to provide that for you over the winter.
Yeah, no, well said. We've talked about it for months to bring back the after dark shows. We do enjoy making those shows because it's a little more of an informal discussion where we can get a little more heated with what we're talking about, because it's not so much me and you just going back and forth and giving results or talking about sort of our predetermined topics, when that show definitely allows us to pretty much talk about anything that comes up naturally in the conversation. So we definitely want to have a couple of those shows maybe over the winter, and there's topics we've thrown around and there's people we've thought about bringing on. So if people have any ideas or send us ideas of who they want to see or the sort of topics they want us to discuss, we're more than interested. I think it was last year when we did the America and Canada sort of joint one where we talked about the North American Challenge. I think that was sort of one that a lot of people requested or wanted to see happen, and so we made it happen. So if you have ideas like that, we're more than willing to work with essentially anything, because we really do want to have good conversations, and we like to do that after dark. It's just a slightly harder to organize 5-6 people coming onto a show at the same time than me and you just showing up in our basements.
Exactly. It is a little bit of a chore, but when we actually get it going together and people show up, it's great. The conversation is really good. The back and forth is really good. And I really think that NAC one was the US and Canada talking about kind of the NAC and events. It was a really good one. And I think people got a lot out of it. So, good can come out of it. Fun can come out of it. So, yeah, just send us those topics. Let us know what you want to see. We want to make the stuff that you want to see. So,
Yeah, if you're ever wanting to check that one out, are our After Darks on YouTube or are they on Facebook?
They're on YouTube. We did post them on YouTube, but they are on Facebook as well if you want to check those out.
Yeah, if you want to check them out, definitely do. Specifically, that one is a good conversation. We also have a good conversation just about nationals and the formatting of nationals. When we brought on, I think, Carter and Brandon Watson and a couple of the other people who had hosted nationals over the last few years. So I think that's also a good one if you're wanting to have sort of they get the gist, I guess, of what our After Dark shows are. So
on that theme of conversation and debate and After Dark stuff, here's an example. This came across my Facebook feed a little while ago, probably a couple days. It was an advertisement for the recap of the BPL Day 1. There was an image used, and it's so funny because you can post a ton of stuff about bowls and you'll get a handful of comments, a handful of likes. But as soon as you bring up this one topic, you get a ton of likes, dislikes, comments, back and forth. It's hilarious. It is actually really hilarious. But this image is crazy because I believe Bowls Australia even pulled it from their website and changed it. So, Mike, I want to get your take on this. What do you think about this image?
that is a clear foot fault.
It is unbelievable. This came up and the comments just flooded in. It's not the first time that this has been captured, but I mean, how do you debate that?
Yeah, I think me and you had discussed this before the show when we sort of went over the image, and I think I guess he's a player that he sort of runs or moves as he comes off the mat. So he's always been someone who's very close to foot faulting if he's not foot faulting whenever he throws. The image that we were talking about, I think when he won the Commonwealth Games over the summer in the singles, they posted an image being like, congratulations, and he's very close to foot faulting in that image too. So it's something that we'd like to get some people's takes on is, what do you think of sort of that foot faulting rule? Like a guy who does like the motion in his delivery, sort of like Aaron does there. Is it something you're fine with? Or do you think that the umpires potentially maybe need to step in and sort of get it under control? I'm not sure. What do you think?
Oh man, it's so. My take on it is foot faulting is such a hard thing to capture. You see a picture like that and you're like, holy crap, how do you miss that? Like, there's at least a foot gap between the front of his foot and the mat, and then the bowl is just barely coming out of his hand. But unless you're an umpire sitting there watching intently, it's so hard to catch. If you're a player, you're probably not sitting there staring at his foot. You're probably just watching the bowl or thinking about your next shot. So it's really, really hard to capture. But when you see a picture like this, the debate just rages on, why don't foot faults get called and why don't we do more stuff? And, what's the rule? Some people might not even know the rule. It's hilarious because things like this, where it's kind of like a negative thing, just blow up. And you can post a million other things that are interesting in bowls and you won't get nearly as many comments or trolls even in there saying stuff. It blows my mind, but it's so funny to see.
Yeah, the controversial stuff always gets the clicks and the people going. So it's definitely something you see a lot of, like his not his counterpart, I guess, but we talked about there's a player from Namibia that was in the Commonwealth Games that had a unique delivery, I'll call it. He doesn't stop moving. So he, according to the foot faulting rules, you have to be standing or stationary over the mat when you're delivering, is essentially how they kind of word it when you read the rule book. And the guy from Namibia, it was the same thing. I saw tons and tons of conversation about if his delivery would be considered legal because he continues moving the entire time through his delivery. He starts behind the mat and walks all the way through. He does like a slight momentary pause, and I'm talking like 0.1 seconds of a pause. So people said that that's considered stationary. But it's always interesting because definitely when you have someone that's slightly breaking the rules or close to breaking the rules, then you get lots of people talking about it and you get that dialogue going.
Yeah. And even on I'll say this, the rule comment. So when someone says, "Hey, this happened in my tournament game or my Premier League or whatever," boundaries or ditches and bowls moving and score capturing, people will just flood it with comments on either it happened to them, um, they hate the rule, they think the rule should be enforced, what the rule is, all this kind of stuff. It's really quite amazing. But just thought I'd throw up that picture because I found it interesting that this was used as the day one recap of the BPL, and then people, I'm assuming, commented on it, and it kind of blew up a little bit. So now that when you go onto the day one recap, it's not a picture of Aaron Wilson delivering a bowl; it's something else. So interesting.
Yes, no, leave it to bowlers to find. It's like a Where's Waldo puzzle or something like that, where if you leave it to bowlers, we'll find whatever's wrong with the image or what could be misconstrued about what's happening, rather than seeing that he made some nice shots or whatever during the day. So very interesting.
Excellent bowler. I mean, you'll see a ton of pictures of him, and no issue. But then there's those ones where he is just making that big motion, and I'm assuming it was maybe a weighted shot, so he was putting more into it, where he gets that separation from the mat in his back foot. So, nothing against Aaron Wilson. I love Aaron Wilson. Awesome Commonwealth Games champion. I doubt that his success is because his foot trails a little bit off the bat. Let's just put it out there. We have a comment. Paul Carter. He was the one that let me know there's no sound. As you were saying, there was no sound. Being new to bowls and from the UK, I find it interesting that you have a good worldwide knowledge of what's going on. Thank you for the comment.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We do try to bring people in from all across the world. We realize that bowls is a worldwide game, so we always do try to keep up with everything we can, and we will pass along any results people give to us from pretty much anywhere in the world. So if you do have any results and you're not from Canada, we will pass it along. We're not afraid to talk about other tournaments. Like, we like to bring up pretty much anything we find. Like, I think our last show we started talking about the Japan Open and sort of the Dutch Open and other events like that. So we do like talking about anything bowls related in the world, because if there are events going on or if there's something that we can pass along specifically in our winter season, it gives us a little more to talk about than just a couple of things that we could talk about in Canada. So thanks for the comment there, Paul.
Yeah. The other thing is we want to be that conduit for information. There's shows out there, but they focus heavily on their country. Obviously, we focus on Canada because there's nothing in Canada to promote these things out there to the masses. But there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't get promoted, that nobody sees. There's like when we were talking about Japan, there's World Bowls events that nobody knows about. They're on the list of World Bowls sanctioned events, but nobody knows about them. Nobody knows what they are, when they are, who's going, and who's playing. The advertisements are usually either player specific. So I know Michael Patulli is going to this event, so I'm going to say, hey, let's have an interview with Mike Patulli because he's going. But does anybody really know what the event is and what it's all about? So that's what we want to do in the show. Not only bring you Canadian and North American content, but let you know about the big events and the small events. So really cool. Paul's asking, where do you watch the majority of bowls online?
So if I were to answer, we would look for streams specifically through who's ever hosting the event. So typically, I guess if we're talking about BPL, Bowls Australia streamed that entire event. So if you went to the Bowls Australia page, you could check out that for the BPL. Same with the World Bowls Tour. They stream theirs to YouTube and Facebook.
Yep.
So you're able to check that out through them. And then there's a lot of the smaller events or tours, I guess, if we're talking about UK events. There's a lot of them that have their own individual Facebook streaming is usually what they do. So that's typically what we do is if we know there's an event happening, you usually will be able to find either if they have an actual streaming platform that you'll be able to find it through either website or Facebook page. And then sometimes it's players individually streaming as well. That's sort of the mix of what we do. What do you do, Daryl?
Much of the same. I do heavily rely on YouTube, mostly because it's easier to find. Facebook you can find. The individual pages like Bulls Australia, Bulls Scotland, whatever, if they're streaming something, you can go and find it there, and that's really cool. But after the event is done, trying to find anything on Facebook is a nightmare. Trying to scroll through and find things, but on YouTube you just search it and hopefully it comes up. And we try to post some old events that people might not have seen or know about, some really cool past matches that might pique your interest, and we'll hopefully be doing more of that over the winter. But yeah, YouTube is my mainstay, but Facebook and individual websites, if I can't find it anywhere else, is definitely a go.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to find where the streaming is, but if you do a little bit of the legwork and know who's hosting the event, that's usually where you can start from. Is usually good. Either go to that Facebook page or the website of that national governing body, and then you're probably able to find a link pretty quickly from there.
And don't forget, if you're not sure, come and watch the Canadian Bowler, ask us the question, and we'll let you know, because we'll be searching for it too. We'll let you know what we're planning to watch and what we have watched, like the BPL and the WBT that we watched, and coming up the Champion of Champions, which will be really cool. And then make sure you tune into the WBT. Obviously, you're in the UK, so that BBC will probably pick some of that up. But yeah, Potters will be coming up over the off season for us, so that'll be really cool to see. Andy Caldwell asked, Paul, I'm interested to know how you managed to find the Canadian Bowler. That's always interesting. How did you actually find us? It's like basically search for tutorials, etc. online, and was fortunate to come across the Canadian Bowler. Awesome. We're glad that you're checking out the videos. We're hopefully going to just keep putting all that content out there. So, Paul, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, any support's great. Guess I'll do our one last plug here. I think we don't have much else to talk about. Is that right, Daryl?
Yeah, no, that's cool. Footfall was the last one to get people all fired up.
Perfect. Yeah, quick reminder to like, comment, subscribe if you are here. Any sort of interaction with the video is great. Please hit that like button. It helps bump our video up in recommended features on YouTube here. So if you're not able to check the show out, you can check us out on podcasting platforms within the week after the fact. So yeah, I guess I got nothing else to talk about. Same with you, Daryl.
All good, man.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. We're happy to see the interactions there in the chat and be able to get the information to you. So we'll be back in a few weeks. And with that, may all your Bulls be touchers.